Hello. Today I want to talk about my 10 games versus the Elena-Bot. After my success with the Tomas and Maria bots, I decided, you know what, let's just keep going. Both of those were rated 1200, so I played the next 1200 rated bot I could find, which was Elena. The flag says Elena is from Romania, and overall, Elena proved to be slightly tougher for me. I did not have quite the success that I did with the other bots, and sorry, I'm cropping on the fly, so give me a second. I'm just going to put that right there. Um, I let the computer choose whether I play the black pieces or the white pieces, just like always. And weirdly, this time I got to play with white pieces 8 times and only black twice. Uh, one of the times when I played black, the bot opened with F4, which is the bird's opening. I don't know what to do against that, but I did okay, at least for a while. And the other time they played E4, so I played the Scandinavian defense. As white, I opened with D4 every time. As you can see, we had a few Londons, a few Queen's Gambit declined, and one Dutch defense, which I tried to play the London, but the bot responds with F5, which makes it the Dutch, according to the book. Um, I did not have the gradual improvement in length of games as I did with the previous bots. As you can see on this graph, my first game was one of the shortest at 24 moves. My second game was the longest at 55 moves. Then we went shorter and then longer again. But overall, my number of moves, the average was less than previously. If you can see the two orange lines, the top one was my average against Tomas, which was 67 and a half moves per game on average. So that means some longer than that. And against Maria, I brought that down to 47 and a half. But against Elena, this third bot, my average was 34.2 moves per game. So less than 35 moves a game. Remembering that all the games that I won end in checkmate because the bot doesn't resign. So I felt like that was an improvement on my part. I've done the blunder graph a little differently this time now that I've played 3 bots. Instead of listing my number of blunders per game, I'm just showing my average against each bot, as well as the bot's average. Tomas averaged the highest, as you can see, at 2.75 blunders per game, and I had 1.5 average. Against Maria, I brought that down. My average came down to a half, and Maria only blundered once a game. Elena was a little bit more blunder heavy, but I brought my average down even further, averaging less than half a blunder per game. It's 4 blunders over the course of 10 games. So not too shabby for someone at my level. Remembering at Rapid, I'm about 1100, give or take. This was one of the games that I drew, and I'll show you what happened. I started out all right against this bird's opening, which I have no idea what that's all about. It says the computer says I should have just started with D4, or sorry, D5. One reason I did this was because the F pawn move has opened this diagonal. I thought just in case something happens, I might want to put a queen over there. But the knight guards the spots where I might put my queen, so that's no good. So I went to D5 anyway, which is okay. Black already has a slight advantage. I'm taking plenty of space here. As you can see, controlling a bunch of center squares with the knight and these pawns. That one as well. They're controlling some center squares too from off at the side. But anyway, the bot makes a mistake right off the bat. This is move 6. And I capitalize on it. That was just a very odd trade. Here is where I made my next mistake, and that is not blocking with the knight. Very often when this bishop comes to do this check, my knight is still back here, and it's commonplace to use that knight to block the check. And here the principle is kind of the same, that they don't want to trade their bishop for a knight. At least many people don't. And that's what I should have done here, but instead I did this. So the bishop just trades, which this forces a king move. There's no other way to get rid of that piece or get out of check. So either get out of check or capture the piece. And that was frustrating because it denies my right to castle. I don't always castle, but I like to be able to. if the need arises. And so now I can't. And get another check here, which I can't. Would not be a good idea to capture this piece, so again my king has to move. And now there's a knight in here probing around in uncomfortable places. So now I bring my knight back, but there's a knight waiting to trade for it. Then the computer says, the evaluation computer, not the bot that I'm playing, says this isn't a great move, and that black still has the advantage here. One reason that black has the advantage here is because white actually cannot get into my position. My king has already moved, if you'll remember. I forget where it moved. And moved here, and it moved somewhere else. You know, right now I can just move there and protect this piece. But instead, I didn't even think of that. And here was my one blunder of the game, allowing the bot to take this. Okay, so I'm forced to move again, because if I block, they get a free rook with check. That's why I have to move the king here to continue protecting my rook. So the bot gets another pawn. And here the evaluation engine is actually recommending me to bring my king out in front of these pawns. Because while the bot can say check again, it says just run over here, because what if they say check again, you can just block with this F pawn and you're fine. And then later, if you want, you can go back here. Yeah, it's very but I didn't even, I would never consider moving my king out there. Maybe in the future I'll remember this position, and if it happens again, I'll remember, hey, just put your king over there and you'll be fine. I would honestly worry about a bunch of pawns coming down here if my king were out there. But I guess not, because my F pawn would be up there. Anyway, so I just moved back. And my whole, these files are open. I've got a queen here staring me in the face. I figure I was way down, so I just repeated moves. And the bot just repeated moves as well. And so we drew. Yeah, move 20. That's why this game was so short, because they just broke through the position. I defended it poorly, and so I just decided to repeat moves. Now, in this game, was basically the opposite. Instead of making 2 mistakes and a blunder in 20 moves, I played this entire game with 0 blunders, 0 mistakes, and 0 inaccuracies. Tried opening with the London system here, which is what I logged it as, but the computer immediately doesn't do something great here, just allowing me to trade off a center pawn. Instead of trading back, instead of taking back, which would allow this queen trade, the bot tries this trick. And I admit I almost fell for it, but that pawn is guarded. So I retreat my bishop. Then the bot takes back my pawn, which again allows the queen trade. So I did it, which keeps the opponent from castling later because they've moved their king now, and all their pieces are still here. I've already got one piece out, pointing at a free pawn. I'm one move away from castling. So from here on out, because of that early mistake, I think now I'm up 3.5 points on the evaluation bar. That pawn is guarded. I put the bishop where I kind of want it anyway. And then another mistake on the bot's part, just giving me an unguarded bishop. Sometimes these kind of mistakes can catch you off guard because you're like, oh no, my bishop's in danger. And then you'll think, oh, well, it's protected, so now I can't move my knight. But that bishop's not protected. And so I just wait a second and think, wait, they just gave me a bishop. So anyway, put the bishop back where I want it. Here, yeah, I probably should have put the knight there, but I didn't want to because I wanted to castle with check, which I did. I think that's one reason I secretly like to castle queenside, is because very often the d pawn or the d file is open because the d pawn is gone. So I often get to castle with the rook point against something important, like the king in this case. So from here, being a piece ahead because of that bishop blunder, The idea is to develop the rest of my pieces, trade when possible, when given the opportunity, and not blunder any of my own pieces. So when the enemy comes in here, it's like I just want to make sure that piece is protected. That wasn't the best move because it's easily thwarted. Like that. However, this allows me to say check. I'm still guarding my bishop. And they took it anyway, but again, every trade helps me at this point. So it's, I think I did a fairly good job of just keeping my pieces safe, watching where I'm going, making sure that their attacks are not very dangerous, that each of my pieces is protected. The computer didn't like that because it knew en passant is possible. However, that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted to free this rook. And that's the reason. This pawn was not protected. So the check here isn't important. I know the king can get out. But now that pawn is gone. That was the idea. I can put my rook back. I'm not even worried about this because I have a check and pretty soon possible mate over here. Yeah, that's a mistake because I can simply retreat the rook and I'm threatening checkmate. Finally, the bot gets its act together, brings this up here, but this is not good enough. And we finished that one off fairly easily. So now I've beaten 3 1200 rated bots. I plan to look for any others that are in that range and then move up possibly and try a 1300 rated bot. Thank you for watching.